Right, just a quick note on something that I get asked quite a lot, which I understand because I know a lot of you are just as kind of excited as we all are. The Paul Sykes film. When is it going to happen? How did it happen? Right, go back to the start. I released Paul Sykes' Unfinished Agony on the 10th anniversary of Paul's death, which was March the 7th, 2017. And it must have been about two months after that my publishers rang me and they were like, "You're not going to believe this," because every author who writes a book, you've always, and if they don't, they're lying. Listen, it was literally my first one as well. But there's many ways. There's three ways you can make money writing books. One, you write the next Harry Potter or the next 50 Shades of Grey, next Star Wars. Two, it gets dramatised. Or three, you're very prolific and you write that much that you put the Amazon rainforests in danger. And that's what I chose, the third option. Literally, I've just literally in 3.5 years written, I think it's something like 18 now. So yeah, but anyway, going back, my bosses, if you like, they rang me and said, "You are not going to believe this." A film producer, because there was talk, of one which never materialised, which I'm not going to go into, but they said a few things, and talk is cheap. But anyway, this Western Edge Pictures got in contact with Warcry Publishing at Pontefract, and they said, "We've watched your documentary, we've read Sweet Agony," which was that was basically what kind of got them. I suppose that was the fishing rod that got them hooked, like many people. Obviously, you watch the documentary, you watch the book, so you read the book, and long story short is they came looking and said, "Look, we're aware, are you Jamie Boyle's publishers?" So I didn't believe this for hours. I was like, you were lying. So when it kind of sunk in, this must have been about the summer of 2017, and basically we were aware that contracts were signed anyway, and yeah, it was quite what's the word? It was very non-believable that I'd done this book as a bit of not a joke, but I just wanted to know what happened, and that's all my aim was. And then Western Edge Pictures, who on a scale of things, they're really a huge, respectable company. They've got things like the Joe Calzaghe film they did. What else have they done last couple of years? Oscar Pistorius film. They're doing something with Paul Gascoigne now. They made a very, very good horror film, British horror film called Prevenge. If you YouTube it, it's fantastic. And they did do something with Billy Piper. So anyway, these guys were like, "Listen, can we buy the rights? Not the rights to your book, but can we get you under contract, and can we make the script from Sweet Agony, Unfinished Agony," and then obviously they knew there was a further agony where there was the final agony. So long as I know I always say this, my publishers go mad at me, but because I always ramble on, as you know. But them 4 books have been merged into a film, and the very skillful Leo Bill, I think he's called, and Vaughan Sybil have sat together. And the film's going to start from 1989, which just basically takes it from when Paul's come out of prison. But them 4 books have been merged together, read many, many times, and then there's a script. I'm told the film's going to be made in Leeds, Pontefract, and Wakefield. But not only that, there's going to be, if anyone's seen the Lenny McLean film a couple of years back, there was the Lenny McLean film, which, I don't know, I think it could have been a lot better considering the budget they had. And there was a documentary, which I thought that the documentary was fantastic. Sorry, that's my dog ruining another thing again. If you watch these, a dog always cries. Sorry, earlier I was filming and she was drinking water and she was crying to go out. Hopefully she's gone away. Anyway, sorry, go back to it. It's basically the film is going to happen from 1989 when Paul was 43, and you've seen what happens when the documentary. When I read the blurb, the synopsis, the official one from Western Edge Pictures, it very much kind of sounded like Rita Sue Bob 2. It's not going to be an outright comedy. But of course, you can't do nothing with Paul Sykes or the story and it not be funny. Although there's a lot of tragedy and sadness and chaotic madness, you can't help but, there's no way you could have written. You can make a Paul Sykes film and make a Paul Sykes documentary, which are running back to back like the Lenny McLean film. It's Lenny, I think it was called, and So that's what the plan is. So there's going to be a film on Sykes, and there's going to be a documentary, and obviously the documentary will be filled with people like John Spencer, Delroy Showers, a number of people that were kind of close to Paul. But yeah, and I think the budget, which has been kind of mentioned, is like £2 million. So it is going to be, which I've been told is not a lot apparently for a film. I'm not clued up in anything like that, but when you look at, I think Dead Man's Shoes cost something like, I think that full film, I'm sure it was about 180 grand. I might be wrong. I know it was definitely under 300,000, which is phenomenal considering how successful that film is, because it's very much a British film, so you don't have to spend a fortune. There's been plenty of films out there, like, what was that Kevin Costner one? Cost millions and flopped, something like Waterworld or something like that. But, yeah, I'm really, over the last couple of years, when I've had the knowledge and I wasn't allowed to say anything, or when we were allowed, but Western Edge stayed kind of tight ship for like a couple of years, and they announced it. They put it on their website. Let me think. Sorry, it's getting late. Working all day. They announced it on their website the back end of 2019. So for over 2 years, I had this knowledge that there was a film coming out from the books, which myself and War Cry have produced, and obviously Paul written the first one, and that's, it's in our hands now as well. all the 5 Paul Sykes books are, but it was kind of, we didn't get taken seriously, although people like the Wakefield Express, who else, Middlesbrough paper have done a few, like Blackpool, Hull papers. They've touched on the story, but people were like, oh, yeah. So it was nice when Western Edge were like, hang on, we're really serious. And, the plan was it was going to start in September this year. And basically, I was getting a bit, thinking, well, this is never going to happen. But Vaughan Civil said to us, he said, listen, in a scale of things, on a scale in time for films, this is nothing. Films take literally years. But the plan is that it is going ahead. My business partner. I've moved myself up. He spoke to Vaughan Civil last week, the people at Western Edge Pictures, and they said, no, listen, we're making a Paul Gascoigne documentary at the minute. We're making a film on a jockey, because I was getting a bit thinking, oh, well, it's not going to happen. But they said, listen, we're making this film, but we're only doing it because we don't have to basically go out. We can make this film from our office because we've got all of the editing. It's all the old footage where the Paul Sykes film, the Paul Sykes documentary will be, you know, yeah, I've got a say in, like, we've got a say in the extras, and I imagine, well, I've been told that we're going to be like kind of consultants, and certain other people are, but yeah, we got weird feedback yesterday last week that, listen, don't worry, it's going to happen, but obviously COVID-19 has put a total spanner in the works. And yeah, but if it hadn't have been for that, then it would have literally been in getting made. And I've been told from good authority that it's going to take around 6 to 9 months to make. The film producers told us that the best time to make a film is in the summer. So obviously, when the world kind of got shut down in March this year, immediately they were like, I mean, it was touch and go. April, May, and obviously when it went past June, July, it was like, no, do you know what? We'll just put it on the back burner until next year. But yeah, the contracts there's been many contracts signed. Obviously as a holding fee, and these guys, my partner, shall we say, I keep saying bosses, but my people spoke to them last week, and they were like, do you know what? We're really up for this film. So I did speak to the guy who's probably, when I say probably, I'm very sure, but I'm as sure as can be without it being signed. This guy's very well known, British actor, bit of a heartthrob, quite handsome. So my wife says, I can see it. And he's going to be the same age as Paul. I think he's about 41 now, 42. So when he literally starts filming to play the part of Paul, which obviously this film's going to start take off from night. Paul will actually, so they'll literally be like, he'll probably be the exact same age. This actor's very dark, 6 foot. He's aware he's got to practice his Yorkshire accent because he's from down south. I spoke to him and he said to me, the biggest thing that jumps out with the story is the social, what was the word he said? The social justice side of it all. It's a very powerful story how Paul Sykes was once this kind of huge figure of power and stature, and life kind of come back on him 360, and social justice was the words he said. So you get the point. And I dare say it will take an incredibly gifted actor to play Paul Sykes, which I already know this guy is, because I watched him. I've seen him on ITV about a month back, and he played a very different part to what he's very famous for. And yeah, he's a gifted actor. He said to me about a year or two back, he said he's got the books, and this was when he was having a break from what he was kind of famous for. And he said to me he was filming literally 14-hour days in pantos, and he was flicking through the books, practicing his West Yorkshire accent. And he said, what I'm going to do though, I'm going to keep the books to one side, and I'm going to read them for when I get in mode to play. The exact words to me he said was concentrated Sykes. So I think it's going to be huge. A lot of people only know him as this crazy guy on the YouTube, a YouTube which has had millions of viewers. Lots of people don't even know who he is, but they just it's quite frustrating actually, because when we've done pieces over the years, and I've been to kind of find people, sons of his, or I've met everyone, but not everyone's wanted to speak to me. But when I've delivered like interviews with like say like people like Neil Malpass who fought Paul Sykes or John L. Gardner, I can put we can put a video on, and no one takes an interest. And then you can share a video of Paul Sykes talking about punching sharks, and it just goes mental. Obviously, all these kind of Yorkshire forums, all the Facebook, the Instagram, the Twitter, they it's kind of became an enigma, if you like. It's almost kind of iconic. Yeah, this guy, but there's a lot more to him. There's a lot more hidden depths to Paul Sykes than just the hard case, the boxer, the guy who punches sharks. He literally had everything. He's probably quite possible. His ex-wife said he was literally the cleverest man you could have ever walked the earth. But he just he ruined his life by he couldn't conform to any kind of discipline. And he had a great habit. How can I put it? I can't really. He just had a great habit in life of punching people. But yeah, and the what's that comedian called Jack Whitehall? I often have a look through Twitter and that, and there's always really famous people talking about Paul Sykes, Ricky Gervais's, Jamie Carragher's, and that Jack Whitehall's. He often shares stuff, and he said you meet a Paul Sykes every time you go on Wetherspoons. Them characters in life where you just, you probably shouldn't look, but you do. And if I'd have ever come across him, I could have sat and listened to him all day. It's a shame that he it's just a shame that when you see the pictures of him dying, you'd quite easily take him for. I mean, they've only been 64 now, and he's been dead coming up 13 years. But when you see the pictures of him in his 6 or 7 jackets, he looks 88. When in actual fact he was only 60. So but the writing was on the wall for the last 5 years of his life. He'd become a tramp living on the streets, which is, I nearly said the actor's name there. I tell you what though, how he said to me, he said that's you can kind of understand the full magnitude of what he's saying when he said, listen, it excites him as an actor when he's kind of been offered this part. And it only kind of really come about when Vaughan Civil went to him and said, I'm going to make this film. I'm going to make this Paul Sykes film. And he didn't ask him. He said, and you're going to play Paul Sykes for me. He said, as soon as he watched that Paul Sykes at large, and as soon as he read our books, he said, there was only one man going to play Paul Sykes. And yeah, when you find out, you'll just be. I couldn't. It's like Paul Venice with Lee Duffy. He's from South Bank. He can fight. He looks like him. He sounds like him. Do you know what I mean? I think you could have interviewed so many. And I think this is what this guy's like. Albeit, my wife says the actor Ralph Ineson, he would have been a very, very good Paul Sykes. Who else? The actor Gary Stretch. I think he's from. Is he from Hull or Nottingham? He would have played a good Paul Sykes. He was in Dead Man's Shoes. But I think they've got the right man for the job, providing it's when it is concrete. But I've spoken to the director and I've spoken to the actor, and I think I don't know, nothing in life is a foregone conclusion, but they're both very, very happy. And other than that, it's none of my business, to be honest. I probably shouldn't even be saying this, but that's probably just the bits I can tell you. I do know, though, that a lot of... when you get a film like that, obviously a lot of the stumbling blocks, if you like, is rights. And they were talking to... how can I put it? I can't name them, but if you maybe said the biggest 80s band, if they're certainly in the top three, 100%. So if you think of an 80s British band, maybe the first one you think of, they've been spoke of with regarding to do literally the full soundtrack. So you can imagine things like that are not cheap, but I think when it gets up and running, guys, I think it'll be worth the wait. And when I honestly, just to finish off, because I went too long again, and the people who run this channel, my dog's even telling me now as well, scratching the doors, is Georgie, shush. Lost my train of thought. There was yeah, that was it. Was even when I first come and watched the Paul Sykes at Large, and when I read the book in 2012, I was sat there thinking, how has anyone never done anything on that man? I was just amazed. And yes, Paul written his Sweet Agony. You know, yes, maybe the Wakefield Express done a few stories. Steve Bunce might have done one, but there's nothing, literally nothing. You've got that. And they've been took off. They keep getting took off on YouTube because obviously ITV are aware that the film's going to happen. And obviously they're aware. I mean, the cost a fortune. I mean, ITV or Yorkshire Television, whoever owns the Paul Sykes at Large, they can demand £400 per second. So they're not really going to want things on YouTube for free, which people keep putting them on. And that's why the reason it keeps getting taken down. A lot of people have asked me over the years. But just on a closing note, when I watched that, I spent 3 years thinking, how has anyone never done anything on him? And I spoke with authors. I just, why don't you write a book on him? I'll buy it. And I've said it loads of times. I'm probably repeating myself, but it was just a case of literally after three years, took my coat off, put my drink down, and just walked in story and did it myself. And here we are, 3 bestsellers and a film signed. And but then I think it will really go global. You've heard all the stories of, where do I start? Paul Ferris, the Essex Boys, Charles Bronson, lots of crepe films, lots of low budget films as well. But the interest is there. The interest is great. And I think Von Civil and Western Edge Pictures have really been. I think it's a really smart move, very shrewd, and I'm glad they've just, because when I've rang up and spoken to the receptionist, and they've said, oh, Von walks round saying like his one-liners, like what they'd like to do on CAF, and Petal runs out in 2019 and all that. That's one thing Paul Sykes got wrong, but he's by the sounds of it, he just became obsessed with it and said, you know what, I'm going to write that film. I'm going to make the documentary. And obviously he's picked the actor, and he's got carried away and where I was, and there's so many people. You've only got to look at literally the millions of views now, literally millions and hundreds of thousands of views, and that's not even people that keeps getting gets took off most days. If you find a video on there, it's because it's under a different thing, which it always gets eventually took off in the end. YouTube are really good when you don't own the rights to things. I know 1 or 2 people have put things on a man and cheeky bastards, and I've reported them and it's been took off. But yeah, I think it's going to be massive. And yeah, well, you're here now watching this, wanting to get the information, if you like, because you were just the same as me. Not glorified, I'm absolutely not. There's some wicked, monstrous things, and some things I kind of thought maybe at the start, if I'd have knew that, I probably would have been like, I'm not even going to start. But I've kept to keep a bit dignified for the family, and left things out. I've had to be quite tactful, and there's some things that just need to stay buried forever. But I think it will be absolutely huge. And I think in 2021, when the film starts, I don't know what happens in the film. Will it come out 2022? Will it come out 2023? But I think when it does, I think that's when it'll be absolutely, you've only got to look back at like films such as Legend 5 years ago. Obviously, the craze were household names, but that's what really kind of put Tom Hardy on the map, made him, he was big in Britain, but that's what's kind of made him world, one of the most in-demand actors in Britain, sorry, in the world. But, when you look at other films like The Essex Boys, Rise of the Foot Soldier, 228, all them kind of things, Bronson, Paul Ferris was huge. And I think that's what this will happen. I think, for us, it all started for me just kind of being curious and nosy, and I would have literally written them books for nothing. And a lot of goodness has come out of them books because we've supported registered charities, and we still do. But it's quite funny actually, because Paul Sykes predicted, he said, in years to come, someone's going to come along and write books. And I don't think anyone's ever said to me that there's going to be a film, but, I'm yet to still speak to people. And he was quite narcissistic like that, was Paul, so I'm told. So, although I never met him, I'm not trying to say I did. But I have got very close to the people who have done, so, but yeah, the film's going to happen, and it's all going to be, I'm done now. A lot of people have said, are you going to do any more books? Absolutely not. I couldn't. Listen, I could fill lots of books up on hearsay and lots of things that people have told me over the years. But do I think they're actually 100% true? I couldn't confirm it. If his wife rang me tomorrow, or one of his sibling, or his any of his children, then I would, of course, I'd sit and think about it. But I'm not going out my way to do any more Paul Sykes books. And even if that was the case, it wouldn't be me. I'd actually just be a ghostwriter. But if it was close to Paul as that, then you've literally got 10 books by yourself. But yeah, I think next year, I think when Western Edge Pictures take over, and I think they've got great credentials. You've only just got to Google them. They've got an office in Wales, and they've got an office in London, and they're one of these hungry filmmakers. If they're British, and they just seem to be really, really active. And we don't seem to have any problems with them. But what the feedback we got last week off it was really, really good, because I was getting a bit disheartened myself, thinking, well, it's not actually gonna. But so just keep watching this space. I will. This channel's kind of got over my anxiety now, so I'm about 80% there. So you've noticed a difference thanks to CBD oil, new hemp. Never miss an opportunity to be a salesman. But guys, listen, I'll keep you updated on the film, and if there's anything I'm allowed to tell you, I will upload it on this channel. So thank you so much for your interest and support. This is on YouTube, so if anyone's really intrigued with the Sykes story as I am, you can message. We've got a large Facebook page, which is Paul Sykes on Facebook. There's the Jamie Boyle author page on Facebook, Jamie Boyle Books on Instagram, and at Jamie Boyle 10 on Twitter. So don't forget Warcry Publishing, they're on Facebook as well. Who I think we might not. I think we're the best, but if I'm biased, but if we're not the best, I tell you what, we're certainly maybe the busiest in Britain at the minute. I did 6 books alone this year, and I've done 6 last year, and it's not just me as well. There's a lot of other people as well. Obviously, Richie Horsley, other writers have written books on, the Nigel Benjamin McClellan story, Cray books. So there's I think we must have about 40-50 on our books now, and if you want to follow Warcry Publishing on Facebook, then you can do as well. Right, I'll stop rabbiting on. I need to let my dog out before the wife kills me. Right, thank you so much. God bless, and keep supporting the page. Thank you.